Hello everybody, Ranger John Heron here with Huntsville State Park, and today I want to talk to you about maps. Maps are an amazing tool and resource to use in the outdoors, but more importantly, they tell a story. Now, some people love telling the story of the adventures that they plan on taking. Some of you have used them to tell a story of the adventures they've been on. And some have even collected them over the years to tell the story of the land itself and how it's changed, whether by the influences of nature or humankind. No matter what story it is that you hope to tell, the map can be a wonderful resource to help you do that. Now, in this program, we're going to be looking at a couple of things. First off, we're going to look at 3 key features you should always be able to identify on the map. We're also going to be looking at some of the other symbols and features that you might notice. Next, we're going to be looking at topography. Now, maps themselves can seem very flat, but as most of us know, the Earth isn't. It's filled with hills and creeks, high mountaintops and low-lying valleys. So how do map makers translate all that 3D features of the Earth onto a flat map? We're going to go over that. Okay, so anytime that you're given a map, there are 3 things you should automatically be looking for. First off is going to be the compass. You want to be able to know where north is on the map. Now, a lot of people assume that north is just going to be the top of the paper, but that doesn't always have to be the case. So you always want to look for where the compass is going to be so you know where north is. The next thing you want to look for is the legend, sometimes referred to as a key. All right, this is going to help you out with any symbols that you might find on the map. So if anytime you look here and wonder what does the P mean, you can look up here and see that that indicates parking. Now, there are some universals people will give, and parks like state and national tend to have some fairly familiar symbols that they'll use. But really, this is up to the map maker. If the map maker wanted to use emojis for all their symbols, say a happy face for the headquarters or maybe the poop emoji for the bathroom, anytime someone looks at any of those right there, they should be able to look up here and know what those symbols stand for. The last thing you want to look for is the scale, and that's down here at the bottom. So that's going to help you out with distances. So if you're out for a day hiking and you want to find out how long or how far it is from, say, going from the points of interest number 4, the CCC Lodge right there, up into the bird blind. You can measure that using a ruler, tape measure, maybe just even a piece of paper, and compare it to the scale here so you know that how far that's going to take, and based on your own speed and your own physical ability, how long that trip may take you. Now, 2 more advanced features that you might notice on the map is first off going to be indicating the difference between true north and magnetic north. This is what is called declination. Now, it doesn't have it on this map, but a lot of times it's going to be up near the compass. They may indicate with degrees, say 2 degrees east. Other ones, they may show you where true north is, which is where most maps will tell you, and then they'll have an indicator of where your magnetic north is. Okay, sometimes they'll give you exactly what those degrees are, whether they are, say, 12 degrees east or 12 degrees west. When you see this little line here, it even allows you to put the compass down on it and set your compass, which we can talk about in another video. But that is one feature to see, so you can see the difference between true north and magnetic north. The other one is going to be the contour interval. Now, this has to deal with topography, which we're about to go into, but I want to show it on the map. Some maps will have it down here where the scale is. Our maps, they do give the contour interval, but it's going to be right here. So as it says with our maps, the contour interval is going to be 10 feet on this map. Now, this map here does not have a whole lot of elevation, so we don't get a whole lot of topography lines. But I'm going to show those in a separate map here in a little bit. Now, let's talk about topography. Topography is a way of showing the 3D landscape on a 2D surface. So if I'm sitting there and looking out and I see a hill, how do we indicate that on a flat surface? So one of the ways we do that is by showing, so that's going to be the base of a hill. And now that's how it looks from down on the map to indicate that there is going to be a change in elevation. Now these lines here are what are called contour lines. The distance between these lines is what we looked at earlier, and that was the contour interval. Now, as our map states, the contour interval for the state park is going to be 10 feet. So the distance between these points is 10 feet of elevation. So if I were right here and I wanted to go to this point, which is going to be right here, there's going to be 10 feet of elevation change between those spots right there. Now some maps will also have a much thicker line drawn around. And this line is what is called an index line. Now, normally this line's about every 5 lines, and if you follow that line around, you may see a number. And that number is the elevation. So anywhere along this line, you're going to be at 300 feet above sea level. Now, if we think about the contour interval as 10 feet, we should know that this line is going to be at 310. This line will be at 320. This line will be at 330. And this top line will be at 340. Now this is one reason why they don't put numbers on every line, is it because it can come out really messy. So generally, anywhere along that index line, if you follow it, you're going to see that line right there, and that just helps indicate where the elevation is. Now, that being said, the contour interval right there can also indicate how steep the incline is. So if I'm looking at a hill that gradually increases and then drops down pretty fast, this one is going to come so you see how the contour interval here is much wider than on this side. And that shows that the greater distance here, you're going to have a much slower incline, and then on this area where the contour intervals are closer together, it's going to be much steeper. So if I were to find myself wanting to climb up to the top there, if I went from this direction, it would be a much easier gradual climb over a greater distance. This section would be a shorter distance, but it'd be a much more challenging climb to go up. So that's kind of how you read topography there. Now this is a map of Inks Lake State Park, and this is a better example here of topography. Now again, I can identify where a compass is, where a legend is, and where a scale is. It also says down here in the notes that this also is 10 feet of elevation on the contour interval. And as we look, we see all these different lines here. And down here's a great example. Again, all the little lines building up. There is our thicker line, which is going to be our index line. I have followed this one around, and they don't have the printed one on here. Again, that's not necessarily have to be on every map. But what they have indicated is how high the tallest peak is, or the tallest elevation point. So this one's at 1,067. And so then you can go down, minusing your 10 to each line there. All right, so this is a better example of how those contour lines will look. I hope you all enjoyed learning about maps. all their different features and symbols and the way their story can be told. But their story is not done yet. The land is constantly being influenced and changed every day. And so too can your story. I know I'm looking forward to my next adventure out in the woods, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much for watching this program, and I look forward to seeing you out at the parks.